outer nature is wasting away, our inner nature is being renewed day by day. For this slight momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all measure, because we look not at what can be seen, but at what cannot be seen. For what can be seen is temporary, but what cannot be seen is eternal. We'll conclude our reading at this point, the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 18. You've been listening to a serialized reading of the Bible, the New Revised Standard Version, with episodes presented each morning at 8:15 on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Your reader has been Barbara. Thank you for listening.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Margaret Mack, and for the next half hour, I will be reading from the most recent issue of the Challenger Community News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And under Community News, an article, the East Side Parkways Coalition awarded a $100,000 matching grant to support Fight to Restore Humboldt Parkway. East Side Parkway Coalition, ESPC, to further their efforts to secure the complete removal of the 33 and the 198 and the full restoration of the original and historic Olmsted-designed Humboldt Parkway, the first citywide park and parkway system in the United States, instead of the New York State Department of Transportation's ill-conceived and inadequate tunnel and decking proposal. Humboldt Parkway was once the crown jewel in Buffalo's network of Olmsted-designed parks and parkways, and we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make it so again, commented Catherine Schweitzer, Executive Director of the Beard Foundation. But we won't get there by replacing a portion of it with a tunnel. The East Side Parkway Coalition has fought to ensure the best outcome for the community, and we are proud to stand with them and to provide this financial support at this critical juncture. The contribution is made in acknowledgement of the ESPC's tireless advocacy that has resulted in 3 major recognitions over the past year. The designation of the restoration as the #1 priority of the partnership for the Public Goods 2025 Community Agenda. The inclusion of the Preservation League of New York State's 7 to Save list and the National Olmsted Network's President's Award. As a matching grant, the Foundation's funds are intended to inspire additional support from individual and corporate donors, foundations, and other sources, and will be utilized for advocacy efforts, marketing, informational meetings, and community events, legal fees, and other such expenses necessary to succeed. And the next article on Community News, the 2026 MLK Day of Service Committee officially launched the volunteer portion to encourage all of Western New York to sign up and become volunteers at churches and nonprofit organizations on the east side of Buffalo during the National Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, happening January 19th, 2026. Monarch of Infinite Possibilities founded the local MLK Jr. Day of Service as a citywide volunteer effort to honor Dr. King's legacy through collective actions. MLK Day started with 20 volunteers doing an outdoor cleanup in January of 2021 and has grown to 300 volunteers participating in 22 project sites in January of 2025. Faustania Maurer, founder and principal of the Monarch of Infinite Possibilities, and her MLK Day of Service committee are expecting this to be the largest year of volunteers participating in environmentally friendly and community-centered service projects on the east side of Buffalo at churches, nonprofits, and community organizations. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve." Service to the community is one of the best gifts we can offer to our most vulnerable communities that have been historically disenfranchised. This year, we already have nearly 100 returning volunteers who have been waiting to sign up for the 6th MLK Day of Service. Our amazing volunteers help with painting, recycling, clean energy weatherization, community beautification, and stuffing food giveaway bags, said Morrow. Each project site can receive up to 25 volunteers on MLK Day of Service. To sign up to volunteer, go to www.eastsidestewards.com/MLK Day. This local initiative that is connected to the National MLK Day of Service is coordinated by Monarch of Infinite Possibilities, LLC, in partnership with Buffalo Urban League, Buffalo NAACP, Buffalo Maston District Councilwoman Zanetta Everhart, City of Buffalo Division of Citizens Services, Erie County Legislator Lawrence Dupre, Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor Commission, East Side Stewards. The 2026 MLK Day of Service kickoff rally will be held on January 19th at 8 a.m. and hosted at Bethel AME Church. And under the subject of health and wellness, Narcan use training in 2026. The Erie County Department of Health has scheduled monthly Narcan training for 2026. These free, vital classes teach participants how and when to use Narcan to reverse the effects of an opioid overdose and more. The first 3 dates are January 6th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., February 21st, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., March 13th, 12 p.m. until 1 p.m. Additional dates will be announced quarterly. Information about Narcan training is available from erie.gov/Narcan. Virtual training participants will need a computer with internet access or a smartphone with the ability to access WebEx. For information on group training for your business, school, or organization, call 716-858-7695. And next, on the topic of local historic preservation, the Greater Faith Temple Church of God in Christ gets a landmark designation. Greater Faith Temple Church of God in Christ has been approved by the Common Council for a landmark designation for the church building at 480 Hickory Street. The request was made by the church along with Preservation Buffalo Niagara. Built in 1860 as the second German Baptist church, the pre-Civil War building has been cited as one of the oldest surviving religious structures in Buffalo. The designation may help the church get sacred site grants and other funding. The church is led by Pastor Cleveland Perry Howell. And next, in upcoming events, the Beaufluve Winter Retreat and Brunch. Beaufluve River Club knows how to bring in reset with this signature event. They invite the community to join them for this amazing experience in the Allegheny Mountains. The Beaufluve Winter Retreat and Brunch is more than just a getaway. It's a 2-day intentional escape designed to provide a moment of pause, a space to reflect, refocus, and realign as we step into the new year. From January 17th through the 18th, they will be presenting a weekend that blends wellness, connection, and celebration in a setting that encourages clarity and inspiration. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals, embrace mindful activities, and enjoy curated experiences that bring balance, creativity, and renewal to the start of your year. It's a time to kickstart your goals, reignite your ambitions, and gather inspiration for the months ahead. More than that, it offers a spark of warmth and energy during the midwinter lull, a moment to embrace creativity, community, and well-being while leaving behind the holiday chaos. Curated by the River Club of Beauflou, this tailored weekend experience serves as a beginning of the year refresh and midwinter reset designed for the creative, the driven, and the visionary. As Beauflou traditionally hosts a mid-year summer retreat, this winter experience provides a unique counterpart to start the year. Expect winter serene beauty, powerful conversations, Beauflou winter brunch, and intentional moments of rest and rejuvenation, all along a community of like-minded leaders for an unforgettable weekend where excellence meets ease and where presence is everywhere. For more information and to reserve a place, go to riverclubwinterretreat.com. And also under Arts and Entertainment, A Splendiferous Future, Building a More Inclusive Buffalo Stage. The curtain has recently closed on Theater of Youth's toy production of Fancy Nancy, A Splendiferous Christmas, the musical, but the impact of the show is still vibrating through the Buffalo community. While the glitter and tiaras of the Splendiferous Christmas story delighted audiences, the real magic happened in the internationality of its casting and direction, proving that 21st century theater for youth audiences is finally starting to look like the world we live in. A world that reflects our neighborhoods. For director Alexandria Watts, bringing Fancy Nancy to life wasn't just about the holiday spirit. It was about representation. Watts, a director, actor, and teaching artist, is clear about her mission. The stage should be a melting pot. I've always wanted people who look like me to be seen on stage, Watts shared. I want children to see a blended family because that's what life is. I work with many children who have never seen live theater, so to see a director or an actor who looks like them isn't always the norm. I want to make it the norm. Watts approached the production with the philosophy that theater is for everyone, casting the show with a focus on character, truth, rather than traditional racial tropes. The result was what cast member Chantal Louis, who you saw play Shung in Ujima Theater's production of Color Purple, called a mixed 21st century version of Little House on the Prairie, where the family on stage reflected the beautiful diversity of Buffalo's own streets. From the classroom to the spotlight, Amaya Sanubi, the production was anchored by Buffalo native Amaya Sanubi, a senior at the University of Buffalo. For Sanubi, playing the lead role of Nancy was a full circle moment. In 2012, as a student at Olmsted 64, she attended her very first professional play, Picadilicious, right there at the Allendale Theater. On a school field trip, I loved it so much, Sanubi recalled. In 6th grade, I started doing theater in school. Now a music theater major with a minor in criminology, Sanubi sees theater as more than just entertainment. She sees it as a tool for social change. I feel the criminal justice system and theater can collaborate to help take people off the streets, helping promote more productive activities. Breaking the mold. Jeton Louis, veteran artist Jeton Louis, who recently performed at the Kennedy Center, brought a unique depth to the production. Often cast as sexy or stereotypical roles, Louis found a refreshing challenge in playing dual characters, Miss Divine and Grandpa. I have enjoyed not playing a stereotypical black person, Louis said. I like being cast because I was talented enough for the project. Everyone can see themselves in any character, and I think that's what theater is all about. Louis noted that special energy of performing for children who often wear their hearts on their sleeve. It's cool to see the kids' faces. Usually they can't keep their emotions to themselves. You can hear it happening. As I sat in the audience, children reacted with joyful glee, laughing and enjoying Jeton giving them a memorable grandpa character comedy performance. The power of the school day. For many children in Buffalo, a toy field trip is their first exposure to the arts. Research from Theater for Youth Audiences USA notes that while parents often introduce children to theater between ages 1 and 4, school programs are vital for accessibility, particularly for students in low-income areas. Seeing rows of young girls in glitter shoes, sequin tops, and tiaras isn't just a cute sight, it's a sign of connection. When these children see a Black Nancy or a diverse family unit, the suspension of disbelief isn't necessary. They are seeing their own reality, honored as something worth celebrating. A growing future. As the Buffalo theater arts scene moves forward, Alexandria Watts insists there is no room for a scarcity mindset. I never had a Black woman teacher, and as a theater teacher and practitioner, Alexandria represents an important figure for her students to connect with in their lives. It's so important to let people know and see that we are here, we exist, and we have something to say. The message from this production is clear for the next generation of Buffalo artists. If you are dreaming of the stage, just jump in. The water is fine, the community is building, and the future of Buffalo theater is looking more splendiferous than ever. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Challenger Community News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And under local news, the council okays homestead plan to sell vacant city-owned lots for $1,000. It was announced late last month that the Common Council approved the homestead plan to sell vacant city-owned lots in residential zones at a flat rate of a minimum of $1,000 to neighboring homeowners, developers, and nonprofits. However, potential owners must submit their plan for the land for one of the following reasons. First, to homestead vacant lots to develop infill housing. Second, to augment their side yards. And third, to develop a community asset, such as a community garden or urban farm. Ellicott District Council member Leah Halton Pope said that council members will have a say in the sale of the lots as a safeguard, assuring it won't just be a free-for-all. The city of Buffalo owns about 6,000 vacant lots in residential zones throughout the city, primarily concentrated on the east side, and has had a homestead plan since 1974. Contact the office of your district council member for more information. And under the subject of Black history, there's an article on Black codes. In the United States, the Black codes were laws passed by southern states in 1865 and 1866 after the Civil War. These laws had the intent and the effect of restricting African Americans' freedom and of compelling them to work in a labor economy based on low wages or debt. Black codes were part of a larger pattern of Southern whites trying to suppress the new freedom of emancipated African American former slaves, known as the freedmen. From the colonial period, colonies and states had passed laws that discriminated against free blacks. In the South, these were generally included as slave codes. Restrictions included prohibiting them from voting, bearing arms, gathering in groups for worship, and learning to read and write, and even beating the drums. A major purpose of these laws was to preserve slavery. In the first 2 years after the Civil War, white-dominated Southern legislatures passed black codes which were particularly concerned with controlling movement and labor. Although freedmen had been emancipated, their lives were greatly restricted by the black codes. The defining feature of the black codes was a broad vagrancy law, which allowed local authorities to arrest freed people for minor infractions and commit them to involuntary labor. This period was the start of the convict lease system, also described as slavery by another name. And also under Black history, is there a doctor in the house? Daniel Hal Williams. On July 10th, 1893, trailblazing physician Daniel Hal Williams successfully performed one of the world's first open heart surgery at Providence Hospital in Chicago. Not only is he a pioneer of the procedure, he is one of just 3 African American physicians practicing in Chicago at a time when many white-run hospitals refused to treat black patients, much less hire black doctors. He lived from 1856 to 1931. Charles Richard Drew, known as the father of blood banking. Charles Richard Drew, MD, pioneered blood preservation techniques that led to thousands of life-saving blood donations. Drew's research explored best practices for banking and transfusions, and its insights helped him establish the first large-scale blood banks. Drew directed the Blood for Britain project, which shipped much-needed plasma to England during World War II. Drew then led the first American Red Cross blood bank and created mobile blood donation stations that are now known as bloodmobiles. He lived from 1904 to 1950. And our last black doctor of note, Alexa Irene Kennedy. Alexa Irene Kennedy, MD, nearly dropped out of college due to a crisis of self-confidence, but ultimately went on to achieve dramatic success in medicine. In 1981, she became the first black female neurosurgeon in the United States. And just a few years later, she rose to the ranks of chief of neurosurgery at Children's Hospital of Michigan. Kennedy, for decades as a successful pediatric neurosurgeon, and was ready to retire in Florida in 2001. But she donned her surgical scrubs once again to practice part-time at Sacred Heart Hospital in Pensacola, where there was a dearth of pediatric neurosurgery services. She served part-time until 2012, when she fully retired. Kennedy has been lauded for her patient-centered approach to care, which she said was a boon to her career. Her philosophy: surgery is a service business. You provide a service as unobtrusively as possible, But you must be human. To provide good quality care, it is important that patients are able to talk to you and not regard you as some deity above them. End of quote. And next, under voices, we hear from Betty Jean Grant, trying hard to sit on a two-legged stool. A very special thank you to the 2,400 voters of all political ideologies who signed my ballot to run for the November 4th election. By putting their signatures on my ballot, the voters were assured that they were given a chance to have a choice in the election. Even though I am a Democrat, this former candidate ran on an independent line called Restore Buffalo. During the last political races, due to the many candidates in some of the races, especially the mayoral race, it became necessary for some of the candidates to talk about or even to create independent party lines in order to run in the November 4th general election. For these out-of-favor candidates, there was no seat at the table for them. Not only were there no chairs set for them, they could not even secure a 3- or 4-legged stool to sit with and among the power brokers as they decided who will be the benefactors of their political address. One thing is wise. Political mentor advised me almost 2 decades ago, in quotes, if you are offered a seat at the table, just be sure it is not a 2-legged stool. This writer is thankful to the many voters who were willing to vote for the person and not a particular party. I did not win the election, but by running on the independent line, my candidacy has showed all prospective candidates that there are other political options they can pursue when they are not allowed to have a seat under a non-inclusive political tent that fail to consider them as partners in the political process. The fact that political candidates can create an independent line is good for politics and good for the people, as it allows for free and fair elections, because ultimately the political outcome of any election remains in the hands of the voter. That way, democracy is preserved and no one can be guaranteed to run for office unopposed or without an opponent. Free and fair elections and a full democratic form of government cannot survive if the true holders of political power, we the people, are denied our right to choose and then vote for our political leaders. I certainly ran for the office of the 2nd Legislative District to win, but I also ran to bring issues such as rampant homelessness, the Buffalo lead problem, of the toxins in our houses and water, and of the fully restoring Humboldt Parkway. The political campaigning for the 2nd District legislative seat will begin again soon, as all county legislative seats will be on the ballot in the 2026 June primary. Petitioning for signatures to secure those district seats will begin the last week in February 2026. This writer encourages all who want to be considered for a chance to be endorsed by the Erie County Democratic Committee to make their desire known as soon as possible. All New York State Assembly and Senate seats will be on the ballot as well. Again, dear voters, thank you for the opportunity to allow me to run to give the voters a choice and a way to participate in partisan and in nonpartisan political elections. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the latest issue of the Challenger Community News. We read from the Challenger Community News every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Your reader has been Margaret Mack. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of the Batavia Daily News. Following that at 10 o'clock is the East Aurora Advertiser, and 11 we have the Niagara Gazette. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our volunteer radio readers broadcast daily readings of printed matter to our listeners who are blind or have a print disability throughout Western New York and Southern Ontario's Niagara Peninsula. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service has brought nearly 40 years and more than 300,000 hours of radio readings to those without sight. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Jim Michaely, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the January 6th, 2026 issue of the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From page 1, cover story says, Brick leads Board of Supervisors. Longtime Town of Perry supervisor elected at Friday meeting. Warsaw. James Brick has been elected chairman of the Wyoming County Board of Supervisors. Brick 76 was elected Friday during the board's annual organizational meeting. He replaces former chairwoman Rebecca Ryan, who did not seek re-election